Hello, good people. Welcome to Mafasa's book reading. It's Wednesday and we are still reading The Third Alternative by Steve Covey. And today we're moving on to the third chapter. I hope you have been following, and if you haven't, you don't need to worry because your girl got you. So you can tune into other videos just to catch up. And yes, so let's get into the reading. Okay, so today we're moving on to chapter 3, and that is it's titled The Third Alternative at Work. Okay, so it starts up with a quote. So I will just read the quote for you guys. It reads rather, "A man will be imprisoned in a room with a door that's unlocked and opens inwards, as long as it does not occur to him to pull rather than push." Okay, so let's get into the reading, guys. We live in a time when walls are falling. We are seeing the rise of the borderless economy. With technology, we are seeing the end of artificial walls that imprison the human mind. But the most challenging will remain the walls between people. The walls are mostly invisible, but they form barriers to trust, communication, and creativity. In today's workplace, we simply can't afford these walls. Imagine the incalculable cost to people and organization when sales and marketing don't get along, when there is mistrust in between labor and management, or when the people feel they can't be open and honest, resulting in office politics, backbiting, and micromanaging. The key to tearing down these walls is the eternal strength to think we and not me. When we listen to understand, when we deeply believe in the third alternatives, that there is truly something better just waiting to be created, marvelous things can happen. They can happen in your organization. They can happen in any relationship. Everyone knows that the workplace is full of walls. There are walls between teams, departments, divisions, functions. There are walls between the creative types and the accounting types. There are walls between the executives and the workers. There are walls between the organization and its customers. It's only natural to want to defend our walls. That's why we have conflict in the workplace. The defensive to alternative mindset is the problem. Viewed more positively, an organization is full of conflict. An organization is full of conflict because it has a job to do. And very creative, thoughtful, talented, exceptional human beings in the organization has different sights into how to do that job. Those insights are contradictory, baffling, quirky, and inconsistent. They can also be useful and even brilliant. Some organizations tolerate conflict better than others. Some are conflict averse. Some are downright abusive, but most try to manage conflict. Managers take courses on how to avert and control and resolve conflict, because we live by the premise that conflict is to be avoided if possible, controlled if unavoidable, and resolved quickly so that harmony can reign again. Books on conflict resolution treat it like a passing storm that you hope to get through with a little damage as possible. But the problem with conflict in the workplace is not that it exists, but that we have the wrong paradigm about it. The second alternative response to conflict is flight or flee. Oh, sorry, fight or flight. Fight or flight, oh my goodness, sorry about that. While synergistic response is welcome. Delight, engagement, discovery, for example. An employee speaks to the boss about some stupid thing the company's been doing. What a typical boss hears is called a complaint. What a synergistic boss hears is called an idea. A team member say to a project manager, suppose we did this thing a little differently. What the typical project manager thinks is, she is trying to tell me how to do my job. What the synergistic project manager thinks is, I need to listen to her. A worker says to his team leader, I just can't work with so and so. What the typical team leader thinks is, here we go again with the personality conflicts. What the synergistic team leader thinks is, here's a cry for help. A guy from corporate headquarters shows up and says, I'm here to help you. A typical mental response, great, they don't think I can do this job. Well, I'll teach this guy a lesson. The synergistic mental response, great, what can I learn from this guy? The typical responses are rooted in the paradigm that sees different as a threat. Usually, we either fight over our differences or flee from them because we have a defensive paradigm born of insecurity. We see it in the CEO who smooths over disagreements in meetings. We see it in the project team that walks out of the room in outrage when their plans are questioned. We see it in the petulant sales manager who runs the region by the philosophy, my way or the highway. Such people can't see that conflict is a sign of life. Conflicts usually arise when the people are actually thinking about their work. When I talk about the gift of conflict, people look sideways at me. But what I mean is that thoughtful people will always differ from one another. And that if they care enough to express their differences with passion, that's an offering that ought to be accepted eagerly. One of the most effective business leaders I know often starts the meetings with a provocative question. What if we could change the product line to tomorrow? What if we could change the product line tomorrow? What if the problem we are in business to solve doesn't even exist? What one thing, if we did it better, would change everything? How is our company like Enron? What am I in denial about? His purpose is to provoke conflicts, not dry lightning, but disputes with juices that energizes the mind of his team. His meeting room becomes a magic theater because his team is used to this. They've become very good at productive conflict. I don't want people sitting around me nodding sagely when I speak, he says. I want to see heads going back and forth, not up and down. I want to hear people think. I want to see sparks. And then he listens intensely. He can wear you out just by listening to you. The second alternatives, fight or flight. Contrast this third alternative leader with second alternative leaders. They either fight or flee. The first example is of a leader who fights. An accomplished executive took over as CEO of one of the largest media firms in the world. By many accounts, he was not a listener and marginalized those who didn't agree with him. Employees of the company felt demeaned, reporting that they were constantly told how stupid they were. Apparently, he was good at picking fights. His style was to stay on the offensive all the time. After 6 months, he was fired. Everyone knew he was smart, but his intellect could not make up for the absence of respect and empathy. Now, consider this example of a leader who flees. He's the president of a well-known household goods company. My colleague, who worked closely with this president for a while, has this to say about him. He came in making grand pronouncements about growing the company, but after 10 years, the share price hasn't budged. He still makes grand pronouncements about his vision for the future. Now no one listens, not just because of the lack of performance, but also because he doesn't listen to anyone else. He is, as they say, conflict averse. Disagreements are frowned on. He doesn't like confrontations, not my style, he says. He's a great guy and a terrific friend, but no one can ask hard questions in his presence. They sit at his feet and listen to him think aloud about the grand vision for growing the business. Mostly the latest and greatest strategic notions from the last business book he's read, but there are no sparks. Meanwhile, I sit there not daring to ask the question on my mind: why don't we just make better products? Okay, that is our reading for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. With what I made out of what I read, it just showed me that it's not really about me, you know. I need to consider other people, and if ever I want to learn, I need to consider what the other person is saying, and not just wanting to be bowed down to everything that I say is right. No, it's not always about me. So it's really important as a person not to take things personally, especially in your workplace, but just understanding that you are bettering yourself in each and every day, because I mean, you can't know everything. So yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying your midweek, and you just take that attitude of saying, you know what, I want to learn more. And it's not always, if ever something is different to me, it's a threat. No, it's not a threat. It could be you bettering yourself. It could be just that. So yes, happy Wednesday, and thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.